go. Everything happens for a reason. All right. El Trumpo held a massive rally in Madison Square Garden. There's 25,000 people in attendance. Allegedly, there's another 50,000 outside. Who knows? El Trumpo and his campaign, they always seem to exaggerate some numbers. It's sold out. That's all you need to know. All races and genders were inside, no matter what you heard. And that's a big point. You're like, okay, Rubio, who cares what races and genders are inside? Well, you have to understand that the mainstream media went off on this being a Nazi rally. Okay, in case you don't know what a Nazi is, it's basically a form of, they were a party in the German party way back in the 30s and 40s, and they really just, let's just say, wanted everyone to be blonde, blue-eyed Germans. Especially if you're a Jew, you're out. Okay, so it's kind of weird that this Nazi rally, and Sub 60, you have some pictures of it where you can kind of show what people were tweeting. Yeah, this is side by side where it's showing exactly Nazi rally on the left, El Trumpo rally on the right. And this was an actual tweet that someone posted and said, oh my God, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. Just because there's people in Madison Square Garden does not mean it's the exact same thing. Sub 60, you have the picture, I know I'm kind of going out of order, of all the Democrats that have gone into Madison Square Garden, where I think you've got Clinton, you've got Kennedy. There's several of them in there. Oh, no, this is a different one, but just as good. That's fine. You can leave that one up, Sub 60. Okay. This one says, never seen a Nazi rally with Jews, blacks, and Hindus as speakers. These are all speakers at the rally. And I'm pretty sure if it was a Nazi rally, you would not be allowed to have Hindus, blacks, and Jews. So this kind of just squashes the whole narration of this was a Jew rally or Nazi rally. So I don't understand. But you're thinking, oh, Rubio, these are just pictures. What are you talking about? Let's see what MSNBC said about being a Nazi rally. Sub 60, do you have that video for me? And it's just going to show you exactly. This was an actual broadcast.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling. Because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
So because Nazis had a rally there in the 30s and Trump's having one literally almost 100 years later, it's a Nazi rally. And then they go in this 2-minute diatribe how a single Jew went up on the stage and he got assaulted. Okay. What are you talking about? Like, that's so dumb of a comparison. And when he's talking about the enemy within, all you got to do is put that in context where he's saying, hey, I'm talking about the inner work of the government. You got people like Chuck Schumer and Adam Schiff and all these people. Those are the inner people. And when he says, you have to use authority on your own citizens at some point. Yeah, I'm 100% into that. Why do you say? It's simple. If you have people that are rioting and doing what they do, are you going to just let them riot and burn down cities? I guess if you're Minneapolis, you are. Okay, but if I'm president, I'm saying, cops, go in there. Stop this right now. And if you can't handle it, we'll send in the National Guard. Yes, that would be using my own quote unquote military against your own people. But if your own people are acting like animals, you got to treat them like animals. I don't know what to tell you. I need to talk to someone about this. And the person I'm going to bring on is Jeff Abraham. I've known Jeff for probably almost 20 years at this point. He's a great guy. He's coming from Georgia. He does one of those really smart jobs. I don't know exactly what he does, but I know he deals with numbers. But he's also a precision, long-range shooter that you've shot a target over a mile in distance.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit impressive. So Abraham, congratulations on coming on the show. I'm very happy to have you. I don't know why I say congratulations, but congratulations. Thank you for coming on here. Like I said, I wanted to talk to you because you're one of my Jewish friends, and I always have Jewish questions for you. And I don't and that might bother you. I don't really care because you always are great about answering. I mean, you probably just like Jesus Rubio's just talking to me about Jew stuff again. And I'm one of those guys that I just love to ask questions because I want to know the answers, and it bugs some people. And I apologize for that. And I know the three things you're not supposed to talk about with people are politics, religion, and sex. And I'm hitting two out of the three. Hopefully, we won't talk about sex right now, Abraham, so I don't have to go trifecta. But Abraham, as a Jew, okay, when you hear the mainstream media throwing around the word Nazi, like people use the word does it piss you off, or does it water it down? What does it do? Because I know what it would do to me, but I want to know what it does to you.
So I think that there's a tremendous lack of perspective going on in society today related to Nazi and Hitler and the casual use, if you will, of that term is it's reducing the impact or the weight of really one of the most difficult times in the history of our world. Millions of people were hurt. My wife has family members that didn't make it out. I've got family members that have suffered at the hands of hate. And I think that the casual use of it, although the intent to me is to sensationalize, to move an emotion, but people don't critically think. They don't look at that. And what's happening is they're blurring the lines between real hate and common disagreement. So we can disagree on things, it doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. And you used to be able to have a vibrant debate on different subjects, including politics, and walk away and go, grab a burger and fries and a drink with that same person. Today, you're marked as racist. I think that the Trump rally is a great example of how you correlate an event that occurred, like you said, almost 100 years ago, to an event that occurred recently, simply because it's in a common location. Well, what about all of the other events that happened in Madison Square Gardens with those number of people? It defies logic, but people don't do their own research. People are willing to be sheep and read headlines, and that's it. So they can get away with it, unless you've got people like you and others that are willing to, kind of attack those subject matters. The idea that they're labeling anybody, I don't care what side of the politics you are, as Hitler or as Nazi, is insulting to the millions of families that have suffered and continue to suffer at the hands of true hate. And most of us, in the United States, don't know what that is. They've not experienced what true hate and savagery is. The Jews have, and they continue to do that.
So if you were talking to your ancestors, because am I crazy, or did you tell me a story one time I think it was your grandfather or great grandfather was in the ghetto and literally got out like in the hood of a truck or something?
So both my parents were born in Baghdad. In the 50s, they were persecuting the Jews. My uncle rode on the top of a bus in the luggage box across the desert to get out. My mother was smuggled out at 13 years old as part of a harem to Israel, not knowing if she'd even see her family again at 13 years old. My father was working with the underground to help smuggle Jews out, and got caught and arrested. The group he was with broke him out of jail, got him a passport. He came to the United States under that passport, joined the Army. Back in the 50s, when you joined the Army, you got instant citizenship. So he became an American citizen. Went to college here and went back to Israel, married my mom, and came back out here. The absurdity. So here, when you talk about the logic or the illogic tied to hate, In both cases, my father's family worked with the Bedouins, which is a, Arab, they're gypsies.
Mhm.
But when you do business with them, they were in the mercantile business. When you do business with them, they're your family. One evening, they were coming through Baghdad and they were gathering the Jews to kill them. And the Bedouins came and surrounded my father's house. And basically, when the troops came, they told them they'd have to go through them to get to my parents, my father's family. And the troops chose not to fight the Bedouins because they're not easy to fight. So they moved on. So my father's family survived that evening. The same evening, my mom's family lived next door to an Arab doctor. That doctor during the day was killing the Jews. He came to my mom's family and said, they're coming tonight. Come to my house and hide out. So when they came to my mom's house, nobody was there. So during the day, he was killing the Jews. That evening, he saved the Jewish family. And he saved them, I think, because he met them as people, not under the perception of who they might be or what they might be the cause of or the blame of. So, and then, relatively recently, I know that most people are probably familiar with Danny Pearl, the Wall Street Journal reporter who was killed in Pakistan. That's my cousin. He was killed because he was a Jew.
And this was a couple years back, but he had, for people that are thinking like, oh, I think I remember that, he was wearing a blue jumpsuit, right?
Yeah, it had like a magenta and bluish jumpsuit that they put him in, and he was holding a newspaper in his hand to show the date. And he said, I am a Jew. My family is Jewish. They've got streets named after them in Israel. And then they subsequently killed him. His body was recovered on the side of the road in Pakistan.
Okay, so this brings me to my next section. There are winners and losers in life. So are the losers the people, like, okay, if we were going to speak to your mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, your uncle, anyone, even the doctor, and said, okay, it's 2024. This guy's running for president. He has a rally, same place as Hitler, but let me explain to you all that has passed in the past 110 years, okay, or 90 years, excuse me. Would this be insulting to you, considering this is what Hitler is doing to you right now, and this is what they're saying he's doing? Because if I'm looking at that from your parents and grandparents and neighbors' perspective, I'm like, yeah, this is not even close, man. Like, how do you compare? This is not even apples to oranges. This is apples to the moon.
But I mean, you stated it. I mean, it's not even close. I don't think that people have a concept of growing up in those kinds of times, growing up in those kinds of conditions. You imagine any parent here, imagine giving your daughter at 13 years old a knapsack on her way to school and telling her at the end of school, there's clothes in here, change in that, and there'll be a man with a large vehicle waiting for you. Get in there and he's going to take you. No other explanation.
Jesus.
Today, the kids today can't sneeze without a note from a doctor or the parents. I mean, it's insane. So to take that world that people grew up in and fought in, and today the things that are going on in Israel, and it's not just the Israelis that are suffering. Hamas has intertwine themselves in the general public, and there's others that are suffering. There's Palestinians in Israel that coexist with Israelis that are actually participating in the government and part of society. Israel wants to integrate those, but you've got these bad actors that have hate in their heart. And I don't think that we can understand that kind of hate, the kind of hate that took down the Twin Towers, because we interpret things through our eyes, and most people are good humans. So when you then start trying to take this broad brush and paint everybody that way, I think it's a tremendous amount of disrespect that's to the people that have suffered and continue to suffer, because I think there's an incredible lack of understanding. Most of society today could not survive those times.
Okay, so when you see something like that on MSN, Joe Cohen said they installed Kamala with no primary, and that's more like Nazi Germany. Well, you're not wrong on that one, Joe. There's no real democracy on that. So you see that on mainstream media, and then you hear Kamala, and they keep talking about Nazism, and even Joey B said Nazism, and it's just, they're just chiming it out there. If all of a sudden I had a magic wand, boom, I snap my finger, and you could go talk to, let's say, Joey B, Kamala, or anyone on the mainstream media that keeps throwing this around, what would you say as a Jew who's literally had experience with this throughout your family?
You know, I don't know how you describe it to get them to truly understand. What you really need is a darn time machine. You need to take it back and let them witness it. Let them witness the savagery that goes on in when somebody has that kind of hate. When they've got hate for an entire population of people because they maybe have a different belief, a different religious system. For me, it's about the character of the people. Whoever you idolize, whoever you pray to, that's between you and them. What's your character? When the chips are down, how do you respond? How do you treat other people? That's what's important to me, and that's really what's important to the Jewish people. Why do the Jewish people always try to help the needy, the downtrodden, and stuff? Because the belief in is to raise people up. The people that truly are supportive of Hitler and Nazi, they don't want to raise people up. They want to destroy people, and to label people that simply disagree with your philosophy as that type of people is I don't even have the words to describe it.
It's past the point of ignorance.
It is. I mean, it's inconceivable on how they can how they do that. I imagine them sitting. Is this what they tell their kids? Their 6-year-old, their 9-year-old, their 10-year-old sitting in the living room. Is this what they're bringing their kids up? Because you know what? That's what will drive Nazism. That's why I've said before, I go, it's the old adage, if you could go back in time, create a time machine and kill baby Hitler, would you do it? And the answer is always, well, yeah. But then when you keep calling like someone like El Trumpo, Hitler, 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 you're going to get someone who's off their rocker sitting in the corner with peanut butter, on their genitalia. He's going to say, you know what? This is Hitler. They're literally telling me it's Hitler, and he's having Hitler rallies. I should go kill him because they're telling me he's literally the worst person on the planet. So I don't understand. And what you're saying, like how they have to feel it. When I was teaching 8th grade, way back in the day, we read the Diary of Anne Frank that everyone does, and we went in Los Angeles. There's the Museum of Tolerance. If you ever have a chance to go see a Museum of Tolerance, I think there's several, but we go there in a class of 115 kids, all 8th graders, and the 8th graders, there's 14 years old, so they're all bebopping around the place, and we get ready for our tour, and the tour lady says, okay, you guys are here, no problem. She goes, our regular tour guide's not here, but Eli's here, and he's going to go with you. And I'm going, okay, well, is this like some stand-in? She goes, oh, no, Eli's a Holocaust survivor. And I go, holy hell. And he had, the numbers tattooed. I get emotional thinking about it. And so he gave us this tour, and it was unbelievable because he was talking. He's like, oh, and then we did this, and then we did this, and we had to army crawl for 4 miles out of the ghetto. And you go through that Museum of Tolerance, and you have any sort of I don't even know what the word is, but it's just so bizarre. Have you been to one of those? I've been to multiple ones, and it's eye-opening. It's chilling, is what it is, because at least for me, I know that I have a family connection to folks that were there. I know that my wife had a family connection to folks that were there.
Okay, so we got the whole Hitler thing. not just brushing that under the table here, but why are Jews continuously still hated so much? Like, I don't get it. I've even called you on the phone for this. I did it like 2 months ago. I go, Abraham, my go-to Jew, what's going on? Like, is there something that I don't know? Like, what's happening here?
I don't, the circumstances around Hitler and the hate for the Jews were tied to, at least one of the premises was that it was tied to uncertain times, difficulty, suffering. And so they were able to place blame. If there's a group of people that's responsible for my suffering, then it's much easier for me to lash out. It's much easier for me to do that. The situations like the situation in Israel, there are people around the country that don't believe Israel, that Jews deserve a homeland. It's not about Jews thinking that Palestinians don't deserve a homeland. It's Hamas and their affiliated organizations who have charters to eliminate an entire population. That's their entire mission. And to understand, one of the greatest things that I saw to try and get a better understanding of the Arab Jewish conflict is an Israeli series it's a drama series, so it's not factual, but it's pretty close. Some of the actors in it are ex-IDF, the directors and the producers are IDF, and you see some of the horrific acts, really horrific acts on both sides. Where, you're fighting for survival, and what's really apparent is the generational hate that is being brought up through those actions. So, if the father is a key leader in a group that is attacking the Jews, and then the Jews respond by killing the father, the son is charged with avenging his father's death. The mother is pushing that. So it's a generational problem. Probably 30 years ago, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal where they interviewed an Arab. He was a young adult, and they interviewed a young Israeli, and they asked them about their upbringing, specifically about the relationships between Jews and Arabs. And it was eye-opening to listen to how both sides were indoctrinated into a belief system about the other without getting to know the people. And so, again, you go back to the situation with this doctor. This doctor got to know my mom's family without understanding the dynamics around being Jewish in the eyes of the leaders of Baghdad and Iraq back in the 50s.
Yeah, and like Sub 60 just wrote, he said, generational hate, it's passed on, the chain needs to be broken. Yeah, one of the first things that I ever taught when I was teaching sixth grade social studies was children learn by watching. Okay, it's a very, very easy thing. You can tell him one thing, but if he sees you, acting out on something that's just stupid, the kid, boy or girl, is going to look and say, "Wow, Daddy's doing that, Mommy's doing that. They're my hero. It must be the cool thing to do." So, I mean, it's one of those things that if you were in a room with people that were listening to the mainstream media, and just say you happen to be in they're watching this right now, what would you say to all that Nazi? I don't even know. Verbiage, like what would you tell them?
I don't know that I would probably ask questions. I would try to understand the relationship that they see between Nazi Germany and the events of Nazi Germany and what they're trying to correlate it with here, because it's an impossible correlation. Those dots don't connect at all.
Yeah, it's we're like we said, we're past apples to oranges. It's one of those things that I don't mean to laugh at, but you hear it so much and you're like, oh my God, he had the same thing at Madison Square Garden, and then there was memes coming out. Look at Trump drank water. Guess who else drank water? And then it shows a picture of Hitler drinking water. Trump sat at a table. Guess who else did? Hitler sat at a table. It's like, dude, come on. There's a point to reaching, and there's a point to you're really reaching.
Well, and I think that the thing that's happened over time with the continual casual use of these terms is it's softened it. It's made it easier to have those kinds of conversations like it's nothing. And so the impact or the severity of those kinds of actions. And it's not just, we're talking about Nazi and Hitler because that's the words that are being thrown around, but there's all kinds of events in world history that are like this. And when you desensitize the public to it, then you also desensitize their ability to respond properly and appropriately to it. And I think that's part of what's happening is we're desensitizing the public to the incredible suffering and crimes that went on during that time and the insane amount of evil people that participated in it. And then we're
like I said before, I can't even tell if it's just ignorance or just laziness, but to me, it's almost like a combo. Like you can't look at this really and say, "Oh my God, it's the exact thing." Like you have to be really dumb to think that, or you're just so lazy that you have to be equally dumb. I can't even think like 100% lazy would just take this and say, "Yeah, this is Nazi." You'd have to be equally dumb and ignorant and lazy. Excuse me.
Yeah, or they simply don't care because it serves their purpose or their agenda. So there are folks out there that don't care about the truth. They don't care to really know that. What they care about is, does this statement or does this story or does this action further my agenda for my personal gain, whatever that might be. And if it does, then let's go with it. And to me, that's a character issue.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, there's an incredible book called Extreme Ownership, and it is you got to stand up and take responsibility for what you say, what you do, and those things that you're responsible for. These people are not taking responsibility for it. All they care about is means to the end. And I think that's part of the agenda that they're going through.
Okay, Abraham, I'm going to cut to commercial. Can I have you? Hold on. Joe Cohen says, exactly, Chris, my son, Joseph, class of 20, in your system, his best friend in school is an autistic kid that my son walks. I'm ducking because I can't see it. Walks the class and introduced him to the football team. So they all took him in, high five him. In the hallways, just wanted to show you character of your top man. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. Okay. No, that's exactly what you want. You want him to go, and it's okay. The kid's a little different. Cool. High five him. Jesus. It's not that big of a deal. Abraham, can you stick around for one more segment? Because this segment was pretty thick and heavy. And I want to come back to like a 5-minute fluff segment.
Sure.
All right, Sub 60, we're going to go to commercial. Then we're going to come back with Accept and Embrace. We're going to talk about Joey B just blowing things up last night, and it was simply fantastic. All right, Sub 60, I'm out.